welcome to my kitchen. I'm Steve, and in this episode of Cooking with Love, I'm going to show you how to make strawberry jam. Now, I had a garden that had a strawberry patch in it. Of course, we ate a lot of the fresh strawberries as they ripened, but I had a lot of strawberries left over toward the end of the season, and I washed and cored the strawberries and froze them, knowing that I was going to use them to make strawberry jam in the near future. So I'm going to show you how I process these frozen strawberries. Now, of course, if you had enough fresh strawberries, you can do the same process with fresh strawberries. Your homemade strawberry jam is great to eat with traditional Irish scones or just with toast. It also makes a great gift to give to neighbors, friends, and family. Well, let's get started. Here we have our strawberries. I've defrosted them in a large bowl, and the very first step for preparing these is to mash these strawberries. I use just a regular potato masher. Because these were frozen, you can see there's a lot of juice that has come out of the strawberries. If you're using totally fresh strawberries, you won't have this much juice. And you want to mash them until all the fruit has been pulped. These are the ingredients that we need. We have our fruit that's been mashed. We have sugar. And I just want to mention, I'm making a recipe that's a little bit lower sugar content. Normal jam uses a lot more sugar than this. There is a type of pectin available that you can use no sugar or very little sugar, but we're using regular pectin today. And that's our next ingredient, is the pectin and a little bit of lemon juice. We're going to preserve our jam today by using hot water bath canning. Now, I strongly recommend that you read the guidelines for safe canning. And these can all be found in a book such as Ball's Blue Book of Canning. It's got dozens of good recipes in there, and it goes over all the safety procedures for safely canning. Now, the equipment that we need to can is, of course, a water bath canner. And this has a lift tray in it that holds our jars. We need jars today. We're going to be using half-pint jars. We need seals. These are one-time use disposable lids. They'll be placed on the jar, and then you use a collar to screw it down, and it's just finger tight. We have a funnel for when we fill the jars. We have a device for lifting the jars out of the hot water. And after we fill the jars, I usually like to use a spatula to rub the inside of the jar, and that will get rid of any air bubbles that might be trapped in there. Our water bath canner has come to a low boil. We have our mashed strawberries. We're going to turn the burner on high. We're going to be adding the lemon juice, mixing that in well. And then we're going to add the pectin. I'm going to mix that in to dissolve. Now we want to bring this to a full boil. A boil that can't be stirred down. And we're going to stir constantly. I didn't mention, but our jars are prepared by washing them in the dishwasher. You want to use the jars while they're still hot out of the dishwasher. Otherwise, if you put the hot jam into a cold jar, it may crack the glass. The other way you can prepare the jars is by washing them with some soap and water, rinsing them well, and then putting them in a pot full of boiling water and boil them for about 10 minutes. And those jars will be ready to go. All right, so our jam is at a boil, and hopefully you can see this, but as I stir, it continues to boil. So we're going to add our sugar now, and we add it all at once. We're going to stir this in, have all the sugar dissolve. The sugar is dissolved. We're going to bring it back up to a boil, and we boil it for 1 minute. You don't want to overboil this because you'll destroy the ability of the pectin to have the jam set up. And you want to make sure you're stirring constantly. You don't want the bottom to burn. Now, this is not necessary, but if you want to check to make sure that your jam is going to set up, you can take a little bit of the jam, and this plate has been in the refrigerator, it's cold, and just put it on the plate and give it a couple minutes, and you should see this set up. Now, you may tell that there is a little bit of foam here on the surface. What I'm going to do is just use a spoon and remove the foam. The foam doesn't hurt it, but what happens is if you can this with some foam in the jar, the foam turns gray over time. It's very unappealing when you open a jar of jam and you see a gray coloration to the surface. So I just like to remove as much of the foam as I can before I jar it. Now, you can see that this is set up. When I run my finger through the jam, it does not fill in. So this is going to set up just fine. Our jars are all filled, and they're ready for the water bath canner. You want to make sure that the jars are totally submerged. There's got to be at least 2 inches of water on top of them. Now for my elevation, I'm going to boil these for 10 minutes. Our jam has cooked now for 10 minutes. We're going to take the lid off, turn off the heat, and we're just going to let them sit in the hot water for about 5 minutes before we remove them onto the counter to cool. It's time to remove the jam. And we're just going to place them on the counter so that they can cool. As the jam cools, the little dimple in the center of the lids gets sucked down as a vacuum is created, and you'll hear that little popping sound. I'm down here visiting with my sister Beverly and Barbara, and I brought them the strawberry jam so that they can taste it and let me know how it came out this year. And I've also brought some traditional Irish scones to use with the jam. Bev, would you like one?
Yes, please. They look good.
Barbara?
Thanks.
Now, if you remember, this is the strawberries from my strawberry patch that I had.
Oh, they look good.
Nice, thick jam. It's set up well.
Thanks, Steve. Oh, it really looks good. Beth?
Thank you. It's the perfect consistency. Good job.
Okay.
Give it a try.
Jam is really good.
Oh, it's good, Steve.
Scones are good. Jam. Great.
You really taste the strawberry in the jam.
Very fresh.
Very good. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Hopefully you can taste the love it was cooked with.
Thanks,
Thank
Steve.
you.
We often give them with scones. I don't like that.
Because I'm not allowed to visit unless I bring something with me.